Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. Before we get into this video, I had this thought. As you know, in the boxing scene on YouTube, social media, there are these group of fans who basically play fanboy for a certain promoter or promotional company. And this has been a feature of online boxing discussion for a number of years. Some of these guys have done this for years on end, literally, nearly the best part of a decade. Having said that, imagine doing that for a decade. Imagine twerking for one of these promoters for a decade. And then, all of a sudden, Turki Alalshikh comes into boxing, makes these guys bend the knee, and makes these guys work together. Insane. And it goes to show, under the right circumstances, these guys can work together. And they always could have, if they put their, minds outside the box. So I still think we should hold these promoters to account, and also hold those to account who enabled this type of divisiveness in boxing. There we go. Regardless, Turki Alalshikh has announced a great card on the 3rd of August in California, USA. Headlined by Terence Crawford versus Israil Madrimov. Main event, I like that fight. Madrimov is a completely different style to what Crawford has fought so far to date. He's a guy who has a very good amateur career, hits hard, kind of unorthodox in his approach, athletically gifted, has somewhat of a unique style, and we all know about Terence Crawford. I think that matchup is a really interesting fight. I've seen a few people complain about this fight on social media, and I haven't always been the biggest Terence Crawford fan, but I really like this fight. A lot of people are moaning he's not fighting Jaron Ennis. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to see that fight, but this in itself is a really interesting bout, in my opinion. I really like this main event. Madrimov is the WBA 154-pound champion, and Crawford is trying to become a 4-weight world champion. There's numerous fights on the undercard as well, by the way. Numerous fights. David Morrell makes his light heavyweight debut. He's fighting Hot Rod Kaladzic for the regular WBA light heavyweight title. I rate David Morrell very highly. I think he's very talented. I expect him to win that fight, but it's good to see fresh blood at light heavyweight. Isaac Cruz versus Jose Valenzuela. Valenzuela, of course, brutally knocked out Chris Colbert in his last fight. Isaac Cruz making a quick-fire defense of his WBA super lightweight title. I expect Isaac Cruz to win that fight, but Valenzuela will throw down. He's got power. He doesn't have a great chin, I would say, but he does throw down, he does come to fight, he hits hard, and he has good ambition. I think those two guys are going to go to war. I believe Isaac Cruz is too strong, too tough, too durable, and quite frankly too good. He holds his shape really well in that sort of fight while he's applying pressure. Valenzuela, on the other hand, gets a little wild, gets a little reckless, and I think that suits Isaac Cruz's approach. A guy who keeps his shape well, defends well, etc. Good fight though. Andy Ruiz versus Jarrell Miller is also on the card. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, Miller lost his last fight to Dubois. I get it, I totally get it, but Ruiz has been so inactive. Plus we know he doesn't keep himself in the greatest of shape. He last fought in 2022, I think September of 2022 when he fought Ruiz Ortiz. He won that fight but didn't look great. 2 years later, he's fighting Jarrell Miller. I think this fight could be a bit of a slugfest. Ruiz is much more talented, don't get me wrong, but Miller's going to come in there, he's just going to try and walk Ruiz down and try and outwork him. He's going to walk straight onto Andy Ruiz. We're not going to see Miller piss around with a jab and play touch butt. He's going to come forwards and he's going to try to apply pressure. Theoretically, that should play into Andy Ruiz's hands, but if he can't hurt Miller, I suspect that fight is going to be quite entertaining. I'm saying Ruiz wins, but I think it may be more competitive than some people imagine, despite Miller's last fight with Daniel Dubois. I'm not really convinced what Ruiz has left. Much more talented than Miller, but as flawed as Miller is, he's been more active in recent times, plus he's got longer to train for this particular fight. I actually like that fight. It makes sense to me. Miller, last chance saloon. If he loses this fight badly, he's done. No more opportunities for him. And honestly, same goes for Andy Ruiz. If he were to lose to Jarrell Miller, that is disastrous for his career. Even if he doesn't look good, it's not exactly a good look, so this fight has something riding on it. I like this fight. There's also a Cuban prospect, Andy Cruz. He's fighting tough Mexican Antonio Moran. That is what it is. That's a bit of a showcase fight. Not interested really, but Andy Cruz is a good prospect, in my opinion. But lastly, when Tszyu said, son of Costa Tszyu, when he said he wants all the smoke, you listen to that and think to yourself, well yeah, every fighter says that. He's fighting Vergil Ortiz after a grueling fight with Sebastian Fundora. None of this, oh, he needs a couple of 10-rounders, a rebuild fight, a confidence booster. None of that. He's going in there with Vergil Ortiz Jr. Wow, what a fight. What a fight. This is what I want from boxing. This is what I want from fighters. Fair play to Tszyu, running straight into the fire. None of this rebuild nonsense. None of this tune-up fight nonsense. Go straight back in there with elite competition. That's what I want to see. Tszyu, listen, when it comes to these fighters who are the sons of former famous fighters, very often we are left disappointed. I don't care about Tszyu's last loss. He proved toughness in that fight and had some bad circumstances. It is what it is. And here we are. He's going in there with Vergil Ortiz Jr. Fair play to Tszyu. It's a great fight. It really is. Vergil Ortiz has a fight coming up on the 27th of April in a couple of days. He's fighting Thomas Delorme. I expect him to blow away Thomas Delorme. Hopefully, he doesn't get injured. And then we get the Vergil Ortiz versus Tszyu fight. That is a mouth-watering fight. It really is. That loss to me from Tszyu doesn't really affect his stock that much, considering the circumstances. You know, winning the fight, then the cut came, battled away, but it was too much to overcome. He showed toughness in that fight and showed certain qualities. He's not a pussy, he's not a punk, you know? Vergil Ortiz, a couple of years ago or so, I was so high on this guy. So high on him. Very talented offensive fighter, wonderful jab, great punch technique, powerful, strong, aggressive. You know, looks like a handful. Last couple of years, illness has really derailed his career. He came back recently against Frederick Lawson in January, won that fight with ease. Bad stoppage, but he won it with ease in a round. He's now fighting Thomas Delorme again. That's a knockover. He's kind of rebuilding. But listen, him going in there with Tszyu, tremendous fight. I can't even compute how that fight goes right now, to be honest. But it's a really good fight. I think Vergil is naturally more talented than Tszyu. I feel like he's got more natural talent. Tszyu, to get where he's got to, has had to bust his ass in the gym, because when he turned pro, he showed signs of vulnerability, but he really improved his defense, he improved his jab, he improved his boxing in general, really leveled up as a fighter, and you can tell he works damn hard in the gym, and that he takes boxing seriously. I believe him now when he says he wants all the smoke. He's tried to stay active, you know, when he was waiting for a title shot, he fought the likes of Tony Harrison, who a lot of fighters wouldn't fight if they were waiting on a title shot, by the way. I like what I see from Tszyu. I like how he carries himself. And that has to be commended, in my opinion. Has to be commended. As for Vergil, I rate the guy very highly. I am doubtful on him due to his illnesses over the last couple of years. But in regards to skills, I think he's a damn good fighter. Stylistically, this fight right here, oh, it's a mouth-watering fight. Tszyu, I would say, is the boxer-puncher, whereas Vergil is more of the aggressive boxer. The aggressive boxer-puncher, almost. It's a hell of a fight, it really is. And apparently, there's going to be more fights announced for this card. We shall see. But listen, Terence Crawford versus Israil Madrimov. Very intriguing fight to me. Vergil Ortiz versus Tszyu. That's a markdown on your calendar fight. Low-key, I even like Andy Ruiz versus Jarrell Miller. To be honest with you, I like that fight. You know, two morbidly obese motherfuckers going at it. What's not to like? You know, we see that every day down the high street in England on a Friday night. Why not get it on pay-per-view? I like that fight as well. Listen, I'm happy with this card so far. David Morrell returns, a guy I rate. I'm kind of excited to see what he does at light heavyweight. Light heavyweight needs more blood. With, Bivol and Beterbiev are the clear number 1 and number 2, however you see it. But we need guys below that coming into light heavyweight. I think Morrell has a lot of talent. Don't get me wrong, still has a lot to prove, but I like what I see so far. And also with Benavidez going to 175, we could get some great fights here. Listen, Turki Alalshikh once again makes these guys bend the knees, makes these guys work together. We have PBC fighters on this card, matchroom fighters on this card. We have, what's his name? That Jewish guy. I forgot his name. Dmitry Salita. We've got his fighter on this card. What's not to like? What's not to like? All these guys are bending the knee, and it's wonderful to see. Big up to Turki Alalshikh. Anyway, share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Delboy. Peace.